Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
I truly believe that we all have something to heal from. Whether it's a trauma from our past, whether it's something that happened even recently or in recent years, many different ways to heal from things. You can go to your doctor. Maybe that would work for you. There's also energy healing. There's also sound healing. They're kind of connected because it's all about the energy. And she helps a lot of people heal with her sound. She is Barb Sounds, and she's back with us. And we're going to learn all about this today. Hi, Barb. How you doing?
I'm good, Steve. How are you?
Doing very well. It's fantastic. I'm excited. We did this last time, and you gave us an example of the sounds that you heal with, and we're going to get to that in a little while. But why don't we go a little deeper into the healing aspect of all of this and how it helps people?
Sure. I think from what I've learned is I think here in the West specifically, we tend to separate the parts of ourselves. Like we tend to separate our body from our mind. We separate our mind from our feelings. And we separate all of those things from any awareness we have of spirit or soul or essence. And in particular, our body, our mind can, as we know, our mind can operate all by itself. You know, our mind can chatter away all day long and drive us nuts and actually cause us more stress than is happening in our environment. And same with our feelings. They can kind of hang out with us all the time.
Sure.
Totally ignoring all the other parts. And, you know, lots of people don't want to or don't get to the sort of more spiritual aspect of us. But we all have a body. I think particularly, I mean, I can only speak kind of for North America, but particularly in North America, we tend to treat our bodies like an old car. Like we just want them to get us around. We want them to do, you know, turn here, go fast, go slow. And we don't really care about like looking after them that much. Like we know we should, but we don't really.
Yeah.
And we think of our body as something separate. And our body actually, fascinatingly enough, is our body contains and produces itself our mind, our thoughts, and our feelings, right? And our body contains our essence. So really, our body is kind of like the captain of the ship if we were to be healthy. And so what we do when we run around, and lots of meditative, you know, spiritual traditions talk about this, but when we tend to run around just in our head and in our feelings, we're not paying attention to our body, and then something happens to our body, like it gets all stressed out somewhere, and then we start to have that dis-ease, right? And then what we want to do is we want a quick fix. We want to just, you know, throw some pills at our body or do something. We don't really ever kind of try to understand how it's all connected. And one of the things that the sound healing does, and I can talk about this a little bit later after I tell a story or two, because I like stories that illustrate things. Mm-hmm. But one of the things is that if we're in a sound bath and if we're hearing those fundamental, you know, frequencies and harmonics, the you know, we talked last time about all of the side, like the benefits, right? And all of the physical things that sound can do in your body. But the most important thing that sound healing does is it completely relaxes our body and our mind, and therefore kind of our feelings too, deeply, without us doing anything, like without us even, you know, trying to do that. Because, you know, when you're stressed out and you have some kind of illness or you've got pain or, you know, any of that kind of thing, the last thing that we want to do and that we're capable of doing is relaxing.
Is that the key, Barb, the relaxation? Yeah. Is that where the healing, is that the call to game changer to healing?
Yes. And I'm going to talk about that. I think, you know, I mean, a lot of my stories revolve around that because that's the magic in the core of sound healing. So I'll tell you, I don't think I told you the story about my locking tailbone before. Okay. So when I was in my late 20s, my early 30s, I had a locking tailbone for 15 years.
What is that, by the way?
Well, the locking tailbone is when, your tailbone is at the end of your spine,
Mhm.
right? And the locking tailbone is that it either freezes up straight when you're standing, and then
Mm.
when you sit down, because when you sit down, it goes like this. So you're either locked standing, and when you sit down, it's incredibly painful, or when you've
Can't
been
even.
sitting for a long time, it locks in the sitting position, and then you stand up and you're in incredible pain. So you're basically in pain like 24 hours a day. So I was in pain 24 hours a day for 15 years. I had donut cushions everywhere.
Ah,
I went and I did ultrasound, I did physiotherapy, I did a very, very painful manipulation, um, manual manipulation of my tailbone to try to unlock it. None of the professionals who were trying to help me really actually understood why my tailbone was locking. And I certainly didn't. So I learned to live with it.
mm.
And my life was pretty stressful in those days. I was working way too much. Um, stuff was going on. And at a certain point, I started, my late 30s, I guess, I started to go back to doing meditation and yoga. And I was walking to yoga one day and I thought, I need to do some body energy work. Now, I have no idea where that thought came from. I had no idea what body energy work was. I didn't
Just
know what
pop,
energy,
just popped in
it
your
just
head.
popped into my head.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, well, if anybody knows about this, probably I should ask my yoga instructor because she was pretty chill. So I went up to her after class and I said, can you refer me to, I need to do some energy body work. And can you refer me to somebody? And she looked at me and she said, yeah. She said, well, let me think. Anyway, she wound up referring me to this woman who did um, something called cranial sacral treatment. Okay, so
Hmm.
that works with the energy flow in your body through the cranial spinal fluid, which is kind of like a racetrack, goes down our spine and up and around and through our brain.
So I just talked to somebody about that today, and it was my understanding that cranial sacral
Mhm.
therapy is mostly up around here. And so was it being done on your tailbone?
Well, so this is the thing. I had no idea what that worked, like how that worked. I went to the woman's site. I didn't understand anything she'd written about cranial sacral, whatever
Mm,
thing, but she looked really nice and calm. And so I thought, okay, like, spirit is telling me to do this. I have no idea
mm.
what I'm doing, so I'm going to go. So I went. I lay down on a massage table, and she said to me, are you, if you're a curious person and you like to know what I'm doing, you can ask questions or I'll talk, I'll tell you. Some people just like to lie there and relax. And I said, oh, no, I'm a really curious person and I know nothing about what you're about to do to me. So I want to know. So, so she started and she had both of her hands on my ankles and she was doing some kind of scan. Again, I know nothing about energy. I have no clue what she's doing, but okay. I don't feel like she's going to hurt me. So it's fine. And so she's going, she's just kind of holding my ankles. And then she said, that's interesting. And I was like, what? What's interesting? And she said, well, your hips are crooked. And I was like, what do you mean my hips are crooked? And she said, well, your right hip is 2 inches higher than your left hip. And I was like, whoa. Right. And then she just kind of mumbled to herself something along the lines of like, well, just see about that or something. Anyway, and then she spent the hour like just, it was kind of like Reiki. She would put her hands in different, like here and, down in your chest and different parts of my body. And I had an amazing hour. Like I had my eyes closed, once I figured out she wasn't going to like pummel me like a massage therapist. I had my eyes closed. I was seeing colors. I could feel the energy moving in my chakras. I could see colors. I could feel it all kind of moving around. And it was amazing. And so at the end of it, I thanked her and I said, can I come back? So I made another appointment. And I went home. I had dinner. I walked my dog and I got into bed. And I was lying in bed and I thought, oh my God, I don't have any pain. No
First
pain at
time,
all.
first time in 15 years.
First time in 15 years, which is probably why I didn't even notice it till I got into bed and I was a little bit quiet, right? Because I was so used to having pain that I was not paying attention to my body anymore. Not that I ever did when I was younger, because I didn't grow up like learning how to pay attention to my body. None of us do. So anyway, I went back to her. I worked with her for 5 years. It was amazing. Being able to relax that deeply as I did on that massage table. And I used to joke with her and say, I could just come in here and lie down on your massage table and you don't have to do anything. Because as soon as I went in there and lay down on the table, my body just relaxed. And the
Wow.
rest of my life, my body was not relaxed, but I had no awareness of my body and how tensed up it was. Hence the locking tailbone. Anyway, when I was in bed noticing this, I thought, okay, well, it must have been because of that treatment. And then I thought, well, if I wake up in the morning and or in the night and I have pain again, at least I had one evening with no pain. And it never came back. Ever. Not even for one day. Now I had to learn to walk again because I was used to walking like this with my crooked hips. And so when I was walking after that treatment, like the next day, I felt like I was kind of doing like a Michael Jackson thing, right? Like I was just kind of floating
Wow.
along. And I just kind of forgot about it. And about a year or two later, after, we knew each other better and I'd been working with her for a while, I said, that first time I came to see you and you told me my hips were crooked and then I said, well, I had a locking tailbone for 15 years. And when I went home from that first session, it was gone. And she said, oh, really? That's cool. And I said, what do you mean? That I said, what did you do? Well, and she said, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything to you. I said, well, then how did that happen? Because that's just like crazy that would happen. And she said, your body was relaxed. Your body healed itself. It was time. Your body decided that it was time to let that go without my mind and my feelings even having anything to do with that. Right.
But how did she get your body to relax?
Well, the way that she got my body to relax was, again, very similar to what you do in Reiki. She was moving energy in my body. So she was moving areas of stuck energy.
Yeah.
Now, in retrospect, the only theory about a locking tailbone that ever made sense to me was somebody said that your glutes, they're like cross muscles that are underneath your glutes that go crossways, like from your spine out to your hips. And those are sort of underneath, what is your rear end. And so the theory was that those muscles were just always like knotted, right? Like too tight. And so then that was pulling your tailbone, right? Either hooked when you were standing up or pulling it out. So I think, and this is where body, mind, and feelings all go together, right? So my locking tailbone was partly, in hindsight, I believe, that my locking tailbone was partly that the energy in my chakras was not moving smoothly. There were some parts of my chakra, and the biggest chakra that I had trouble with at that point in my life was my root chakra, which is right where your coccyx is, right where your tailbone is. And that has to do with safety, lack of safety, lack of being, of having someone be able to look after you. And that was very prominent in my life at that time. My second chakra was all messed up because that was childhood hurts and feelings that, I was taught not to feel when I was a full-on empath. So that was not a fun way to grow up. And third chakra. And so it was mostly my lower chakras. And so when she was moving that physical fluid around in my body, it was also moving the energy in what's called my energy body, right? which is my chakras inside my body. And so what happened was that I think it relaxed my, it smoothed out that energy so that my body could relax.
Now she told you that she didn't do anything,
Mm-hmm.
but technically she did.
Well, technically she did, because technically she helped to relax me,
And move
and
some
move
energy.
energy.
She
Yes.
didn't may not have physically done something, but it's the same thing as or similar if you speak to a therapist. The therapist is not doing anything except talking to you. So
Yes.
she, that practitioner, did something in terms of your energy to move the flow, to allow you to relax, to allow your body to heal.
Yes.
So she did something,
Yes.
right?
But she didn't. I think when we use healing when we use healing in the sense of Western medicine, it means somebody is doing something to us that specifically makes that one thing
Yes. Yes.
work or go away. So she was basically just smoothing out all the energy in my body without knowing anything about my background, about
Right.
my childhood,
Sure,
without
sure.
knowing I had a locked tailbone. Like,
Yeah.
none of that she knew about. And the fascinating thing was, when I started to do sound healing in the very beginning, I I had trained by that time as Reiki master. And in Reiki, you're basically taught that you, as the healer, do not heal anyone, in the sense that you specifically, you know, like you say to me, "Oh, I think I have a headache," or "I have a headache. Could you get rid of it,
Right.
Barb?" And I
Right.
say, "Oh, I'm going to play this specific bowl for headaches," which there's no such thing. And I'm going to make that headache of yours go away,
Right.
because I can't do that to you. Your body has to do that, but I can create the space and the conditions.
Right.
So I think that's what energy healing is, and sound healing too, is I'm creating the conditions whereby you, or anybody, any of our listeners, whereby you can be in that relaxed state so that you can be aware of your body and your body, right? And let your body have the space and the relaxation to do what it needs to do.
And what
And
you just said,
sometimes,
Barb, I'm sorry to cut you off, but you
mhm,
like pinnacle moment here. What you said about Western medicine, where we expect something to be done. We go to the doctor. The doctor gives you medicine. The doctor does something, surgery, procedure, and we're better. We're used to that. So when we talk about this stuff called energy, that kind of thing isn't taking place. So therefore, it's hard for people to get it, to grasp it, to understand it.
yeah. And I think I think we also just don't even realize that our body is the gateway to our thoughts and our feelings. So my tailbone would not have locked. My tailbone had nothing physically wrong with it.
Yeah.
The only thing physically out of kilter with my muscles around my tailbone was that my life was so stressful. I was so stressed that everything was just
Mm-hmm.
clenching up. And I had no place in my life. Like, for the 5 years that I did that work with her, I went once a week for an hour. And that was my 1 hour in the week where I didn't have to answer to anybody. I didn't have to, direct anybody. I didn't have to uh, talk to anybody. I didn't have to think. I could just be still and be me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so then my body felt free enough to, I didn't go to her to fix my tailbone. I had no idea why I was going to her, because, I had kind of, I mean, in my way of looking at things, I was sent. My spirit guides were like,
Yeah.
you got to get rid of that thing. It's wrecking you. Um,
Isn't it funny that much of what we're dealing with, all of us as humans, it's because of what's around us is affecting our body. It's so funny. You're in Canada. I was listening to
mhm.
Joni Mitchell last night, and she has a song called "Free Man in Paris." And I was like, "Oh, always loved that song, early '70s stuff." I'm like, I wonder what that song's about. And it's about David Geffen, the record producer, iconic guy, everybody's career. He did
Yeah.
everything. And she wrote the song about him because when he went on a trip to Paris, he was a free man in Paris. He didn't have to worry about anybody's future to decide. He doesn't have to worry about phone calls. He had like just what when you had that hour, you were isolated. Leave me alone. I'm good to go. I'm me now. I don't have to worry about all this other stuff, which is affecting my body.
Yeah. I trained for a number of years in the lineage of Thich Nhat Hanh, and one of my favorite sayings of his was that he had this saying where he would say, put everything down, just stop, put everything down, put all of your burdens down, and then walk like a free man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Because we're dragging like big concrete blocks around with us.
Yeah. I'm just watching the time because we only have about 4 or 5 minutes left. Yes. Does that happen?
That was only one story.
I know. And everybody always says, yeah, we're going to do like 25, 30-minute podcast. How am I going to fill that? You will.
Yeah.
It always happens.
I'll have to save my other stories for next week.
Please.
But
yeah. So what are we going to hear today? We're going to focus on what in terms of sound?
I'm going to just change my video over to the studio. What do you, well, you know what? I'm going to play the big one in the middle, the big gong in the middle. Now my gongs, as I was saying to you earlier, the singing bowls all work as a kind of a team. It's like a community healing event. The crystal bowls are more specific in what they are tuned to or can do. But the gongs, for me, my gongs have a very different feel of what they do for people. So I'm going to play the gong that's in the middle there. And it's called the Sri Yantra gong. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, definitely
can. In the middle. So it's a wind gong. The wind gongs are flat. They don't have a rim. They have lots of lows and lots of highs. They can crash like thunder and lightning if you want them to. I'm not going to do that today. But it's also engraved with a Sri Yantra symbol. And for me, that gong is the Sri Yantra symbol has sacred geometry in it. There's 43 different triangles etched into it. There's a bindi in the middle, which is like Indian people wear in the middle of their forehead. There's 4 corners, which are the gateways to the universe. So it's a very, but for me, that gong is basically brings all of the ancient healing traditions through. So it brings into my healing. It's very good for physical body healing, but it's good for everything. So now I'm going to go play it.
Yeah, let's hear it. Looking forward to it.
There we go.
Wow.
I didn't play that too long because we're running late, but
I could just sit back and have you do it all day.
yeah, yeah.
It's and it's amazing how, what's the best description? How primitive this all is, but how impactful it is. And kudos to those way back in the day that figured out that this can help heal us. And with
Mhm.
everything technology we have today, uh, this works and works fine. It's almost, you have one side, massive technology, Western medicine, all of this, and then you have a gong and a lady named Barb. It's almost mind blowing how that can make such an impact on somebody's life. Did back then, hundreds, thousands of years, dare I say, and still does. Amazing. Just
Yeah,
amazing.
it's very ancient. And the frequency medicine stuff, there's people making
Mm.
machines now for, pain and all the kind of thing. And so there's your electrical patches and you've got infrared machines and all the kind of stuff and the ultrasound. And that all is still geared to fixing what's wrong with you. Like it's not geared to, if you have pain in your body and you can do something like listen to my sounds that makes your body relax, then the pain goes away.
Yeah.
And if you do that often enough, you learn how to get yourself into that place, your own self, right? So that you can
Mm.
do that more.
Yeah. It's super cool.
It's pretty amazing.
It really is. And yeah, you just hit it up there for, 3 minutes, and I even feel more relaxed, like, all right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. Um,
Yeah.
and you can do that for people that are looking to heal. And just like we did it here virtually, do you need to know what they need to heal from? Do you need any information, or you just have at it?
And we can talk about this in another podcast too, but I play very intuitively. So because I am just basically transmitting the energy of the people I'm playing for to the gongs, and they're coming back with the sound, the response energy, then I don't need to know what's going on with any of those people.
Right.
I mean, I have people make themselves an affirmation or something to start. If they have something they want to heal, it's good to make an intention, but I don't have to know. And that was one of the things, because I did a lot of counseling and a lot of work with, high risk young people for many, many years. And I really actually, when I was first starting with the bowls, I really liked the fact that I could do a healing modality that didn't involve my mind, right? That didn't have you, Steve, saying to me, "Oh, Barb, like my left elbow is really, really sore. Can you fix it?" And and I kind of say, "I don't know. No, I can't. You can. Your body can.
Yeah.
Will it? That depends. But if we can relax your body enough, then maybe your body will let go of that, whatever is that happening in your elbow."
Same thing
But
with
I
Reiki.
don't have to know.
Energy
Yeah,
healing. The energy goes where it needs to go.
yeah.
We are out of time, so I want to tell everyone, Barb Sounds is who you are. How do we find you, Barb?
You can find just information about my services and ways to book me for private sessions. You can find me at heal.me, heal.me/Barb Sounds. And for my group sound baths, because I do group sound baths, which are a little cheaper and lets everybody get to know what I do, you can go to Eventbrite. So if you go to barbsounds.eventbrite.ca, you can find the dates for my sound baths, my group sound baths, and be able to buy tickets for it.
And that's the cool thing too, that you can do it with a group of people. And again, the energy goes where it's intended to go. Just fascinating, and just
Yeah.
sounds just amazing. Barb, thank you so much. And next time I'll watch the clock better. We'll a lot more time.
Yeah. Okay.
And maybe we'll hit up
That's
the
good. We can
bowls
do a longer one next time. I know we said that last time, but
for sure.
yeah.
Time just goes by. Well, great
Awesome.
talking with you, and I appreciate it. We'll talk next time. Okay.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.